They've been great against the run each of the last 2 years for a defensive-minded head coach in Kirby Smart. 52 wins over 5 seasons as Georgia's head man, SEC title, and played for a national championship. That's the goal. To bring a trophy back to Athens this season. They may just have the quarterback to do it. Kirby was excited, may get some rain today. Very small chance, but it's 70 and cloudy in the Classic City. We're underway. Special teams work is going to be rather limited, but they're going to see what guys can do. The ball is coming out and all the way past the 30.
One thing I want you to take notice of is start to notice some of these stacks, bunches, the formations. They're coming out right here in a 3-by-1 formation, which is what they love to do when backside they have a guy like George Pickens. But at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see A.D. Mitchell right now, a true freshman. He's the guy that they think can fill that role.
He is a bit of an unknown coming into the season as Cook picks up a couple over the left side.
And that's one thing Todd Monken said. He said, look, we haven't really had an X since we've been here. They all seem to keep getting hurt, and that X likes to be backside because when that X is backside, it forces the defense to dictate their coverage early and allows an offensive coordinator to dial up good plays. What's the answer when you don't have a guy or a question mark at that point? Bunch sets, top of your screen right now. Tight ends and receivers in bunch sets to create conflict with the defense.
Zamir White over the left side gets bottled up. That was a 4th and 2 play. We'll see what Kirby wants to do from a scrimmage standpoint, and we'll kind of all figure it out together on where they take liberties within the rules. But at least at the outset, this will be the #1 offense against the #1 defense, red versus black, and then we'll see the #2 offense versus the #2 D once the black team gets the ball.
And sometimes that chain gang will look over at Kirby and say, you want an extra yard there? You want to keep this drive going? That's a spring game, right? I mean, the head coach gets to dictate how things go.
Pocket holds for Daniels. He finds Zamir White, and White makes the first couple miss, and he rips off a nice catch and run.
First down yardage for the Red.
15th practice of the spring season. Interesting to see the competition at running back and the versatility.
Yeah, and this was a shot play, going play action, trying to hit something downfield. JT does a great job there. Coverage is over the top. Dump it down to one of the many guys out of the backfield that can make plays. Zamir White, one of them. James Cook and Kendall Milton as well. Very dangerous out of the backfield. And again, one of these condensed formations that I think we're going to see a lot more of this next year with Todd Monken.
Fresh set of downs. Daniels, quick hitter to the outside. That's Jalen Johnson, junior from Duluth, Georgia, out of Peachtree Ridge. Quay Walker brought pressure up the middle, couldn't quite get to James Cook. Jordan, what are they missing without Pickens?
Well, he's one of the best receivers in the SEC. He's a big body. You saw what he was able to do downfield. But even more so, JT loves those back shoulder throws. In the SEC, you don't get a ton of separation. To have a big physical body receiver to make those plays for your quarterback, I know that was my best friend. So you're missing a huge playmaker. But when Jermaine Burton gets back and healthy, and Kyrus Jackson as well, those are guys that can make big plays, and especially Burton. Burton's going to be a superstar next year. So they got a couple guys ready to step in place of Pickens.
We'll talk about the tight ends in the broadcast today. They got John Fitzpatrick out there right now. Daniels pressured, got a hand on him, and they will whistle it dead. Cole, what are you seeing from that big defensive line and those great linebackers here early on?
No, obviously, you're going to have edge defenders in this defense. I thought they had the best group of edge defenders in college football a season ago, but that's just kind of a little run stunt there that's able to get a twist, and you get 95 back off the left side of the offensive line and able to get a little bit of pressure there. I have been impressed so far with Xavier Trust at left tackle. That's a position that we've heard a lot about the battles this spring. Had a big block pulling on the run play just a second ago. He's been solid in protection so far, and obviously one of the positions I'm watching for this Georgia O-line.
I've got Warren McClendon over on the right side, Truss on the left side, bookend that offensive line, and Daniels just a hair behind his intended receiver, Demetrius Robertson.
But Dan Lanning, defensive coordinator, mentioned we need him to be lighter. Offenses nowadays are RPO-based. They're horizontal passing game. They're up-tempo. He's got to lose a little weight to be able to play drive in and drive out for 4 quarters.
Yeah, Kirby hadn't been shy about that either. They sent another blitz. Daniels stands tall. There's that back shoulder. And incomplete, trying to find Donnie Mitchell, newcomer from Texas by way of Nashville.
So I mentioned the back shoulder throw and George Pickens, right? This is a great throw by JT Daniels, and Mitchell just adjusts a little too late. This throw for a quarterback and a receiver is completely a feel. There's no one way it works every single time, so you got to create rapport with your receiver. A.D. Mitchell is a true freshman. That rapport is going to come, but that's a ball that JT throws really well.
Here's Jake Camarda on to attempt the long field goal, 42-yard attempt. And he pulled it left. No good from 42. Opening drive, JT Daniels with 5 of 7 for 39 yards. We'll see the other side get a crack at it. Carson Beck will lead the black team after this.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that was one of the things Kirby said he was most interested in this G-Day is finding his number 2 quarterback. And Carson Beck has been taking a lion's share of all the number 2 reps. He's a big, strong kid. And when he puts it all together, he's the most natural thrower on this roster, and he looks like an NFL guy when he really puts it all together. But he's young, still needs the reps. He's the leader in the clubhouse to take that number 2 spot. But this game-type environment, that's how Kirby wants to see these guys respond and how they do respond.
Dejon Edwards gets an opportunity. Red team had a solid drive in their first possession, but a missed 42-yard field goal kept them off the board. Beck has it batted up and intercepted. Pardon me, McConkey's on the black team. That'll go as a reception.
Obviously, we saw Zamir White a little bit earlier. We see Dajuan Edwards just now. We're going to see a little bit of James Cook, who I think is going to be the move guy in this offense. And you're right, a lot of depth, but a lot of depth at this position too.
Up the sideline, and he takes it inside the 10. 6'7", 285.
This is a great job by Carson Beck. Georgia actually brings pressure from the field there, a blitz, and Beck calmly knows it's picked up, finds his one-on-one matchup down the field, and that is a huge pickup and a veteran play there by the redshirt freshman Carson Beck at quarterback. And that's a big man right there, Tom. That is a target any quarterback would love. Darnell Washington at 6'7", 280.
Coming in out of Desert Pines High School, rated the #1 athlete in the nation. Here's Kendall Milton, and black team is on the board thanks to the long reception by Washington that went for 51 yards.
Look, I know Zamir White, James Cook, those guys get a lot of the conversation, but towards the end of the year, Kendall Milton, I thought he was the best running back on roster. I think he's going to be something special this year. He may not be the starter Week 1 against Clemson, but I believe at some point he's going to be the go-to running back for Georgia. He's big, he's physical, and I just see there, that one was pretty easy though. He has his own schedule separate from what they do practice-wise and what he's watching film. I think a lot of that credit goes to Jordan Palmer, a guy that he has been training with since he was a junior in high school, but literally every day of the week corresponds with a different type of film study as pertains to their opponent that week.
Back foot almost intercepted. Looked like it was incomplete as Amir Speed tried to make a play on it. The film work doesn't stop with the opposition. He is a film junkie when it comes to watching NFL quarterbacks, the guys that you would imagine, but he also went back a few years, and this got your eyebrows up. He said, I think Alex Smith's 2017 season might be one of the most underrated seasons ever, and he goes through the same film process and library that they have available to them. He gets the NFL film, and he watches breakdowns on all those great quarterbacks.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons that he is going to be successful, because he studies himself and how he can improve in the little things, and that's why he watches the NFL guys. And I love that he said Alex Smith, because it's easy to say Rodgers, Mahomes, Brady, but you go, why Alex Smith? Well, he's a guy that wasn't the most physically gifted, but he made it work with his footwork, his consistency, his balance, and so you're going to watch a lot, or I'm going to focus a lot on JT's feet as he does a really good job right here trying to avoid pressure, something that he struggled with last year because that knee wasn't quite where it needed to be. But the film study about the NFL guys is all about making himself more efficient. Alex Smith, very balanced in his throw. How do I get more accurate and consistent like that? Love that he has that approach to the game.
McConkey back to receive this punt, takes it at the 10. And a whistle dead after about a 5-yard return. Credit Nolan Smith with a sack on the third down play.
Guys, he was firing off different players from different years, and I've never heard of a college player be able to go back and say, you know what, I'm going to go 3-4 years back, watch this individual guy. 2 years ago, watch this individual guy. I was beyond impressed. I thought it was one of the most impressive player meetings that we've had as a crew, sitting down with college football players, be it whatever position it was, to hear the details, to hear the organization, and ask Coach Monken about it before the game. He said, I hadn't had a guy like him. He said, I will say this. There are times when it can get a little bit too detailed, and we got to kind of reel him back in. He said, but it's absolutely going to allow him to flourish in this offense.
We'll talk more about it as we head to the second quarter. JT Daniels has started this game 5 of 8, but it's the first team defense which has set up the Black offense for an early lead, 7-0 Black after 1. Jordan, you talked about the bunch formations and missing some ex-receivers. That one batted down at the line. Bill Norton with the big play. How can they implement a guy like Darnell Washington or these other talented tight ends, because they've got a history of good ones there?
Yeah, I expect to see a lot more 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends next year, just because they've had to practice it this spring with so many wide receivers out. But when you have a body like Darnell Washington that at 280 pounds can be a physical blocker, and then watch true freshman Brock Bowers, number 19. He's tight end here at the bottom of the offensive line there on the right side that can stretch the field vertical. So they got 2 really good complementary tight ends that can do multiple things out of that 12 personnel.
He's from Napa. He'd probably look better with the red, but he's on black today. Washington and Bowers on one side.
Bullard with the stop for the red team.
You scouted that area, right, Tom?
I wouldn't mind. I was supposed to go to a wedding out there this spring, but my plans changed. Carson Beck's got Kendall Milton behind him. He's a California kid out of Fresno Buchanan High School. Huge expectations for Kendall Milton. He said one thing he's really worked on this spring is getting better in pass protection. Beck throws on the run. Incomplete.
How does he get his hips through the throw?
Daniels is also a tinkerer as he comes out of the shotgun and is able to find Zamir White. And he was telling us yesterday, I've switched my stance in shotgun numerous times. He goes, I did it last year. I changed my stance in the middle of a drive. How rare is that?
Yeah, he walked that back, and I think he noticed he probably shouldn't have said that because he reiterated later in the interview, oh, well, no, I don't know if I change it mid-drive. He probably does. But that's the thing. He's searching for the best way to do things, and that's a good thing. But also, you got to find the fine line, right? You got to make sure you find something that works and stick to it. You're going to see right now in gun, his right foot is forward. Started his career left foot forward at USC, then went balance. Now he's right foot forward.
That one was on the money, but incomplete, trying to find A.D. Mitchell. He's got an interesting recruiting background. Didn't play his senior year. Wanted to be ready to play once he got to campus, formerly an Ole Miss commit.
And again, going for that back shoulder throw to A.D. Mitchell. We saw one on the money. That one, JT maybe would have wanted that a foot more outside, but that's a play that as those two get more reps together, get more comfortable with each other, that will be much easier to execute. Very difficult throw, takes a lot of reps.
Kirby was telling us that since Mitchell wasn't playing last year, he sent him training film, literally running routes in the backyard. Kirby's like, yeah, there was a tree in the middle of the yard. He's out there coming in and out of breaks. Weren't quite sure what his quickness was, but Cole, they've been impressed with him since he got here to campus.
I like the first thing when we asked JT Daniels about A.D. Mitchell, he said he never missed a throwing session in the summer. That was the first thing that he brought up. And you hear about how he's a tireless worker. Coach Monken told me super, super twitchy, a guy that just has elite get-off.
4-man rush, Daniels to the outside. Here's Mitchell again. He reclassified, and he essentially took a year off of football. He said, I didn't want to get to campus and then sit and wait for my opportunity to play. I wanted to be able to play whenever I got there, and if that meant that I had to get bigger, stronger, and faster, I was willing to step away for a game for a time to do that.
Yeah, they really need the corners to step up. It's really a three-man race right now for those two jobs. Obviously, at safety, they have a lot of experience with Lewis Seen and Chris Smith, but on the outside, it's a three-man race with Amir Speed, Jalen Kimber, and Keely Ringo. Those three guys all rotating around right now to figure out who is most consistent. That's the word Kirby used. I want consistency on the outside. When you play defense in a Kirby Smart system, you got to be able to do a lot at that position. Press, bail, see things, make adjustments on the fly, and 0 starts are returning this year on the outside. So an area to watch for sure today.
And Christopher Smith was only a part-time starter post-Halloween last year after Richard LeCounte's injury. That's complete to Mitchell. They served that at 5-bar. Daniels over the middle. Almost got the stripes.
I mean, if I'm a restaurant in Athens, I'm going to go with an appetizer to Cleveland. Why not? Let's go get you some squirrel, throw it in there.
Hey, this throw right here, watch JT's feet.
Make sure
Watch JT's feet there. Cole, I'm going to cut you off just because I'm getting excited about quarterback stuff. We talked about that jump throw. We can see that again. This is what we're talking about. JT's left foot, his front foot, actually comes off the ground. Last year with his right knee injury, had a lot of trouble pushing off, started using this jump throw technique that you see out of Rodgers and Mahomes a lot, which that left foot comes off the ground, allows your hips to get through violently and generate more velocity without having to push off and step into a throw.
It leaves 3rd and 7 as the sun comes out. They had him pressured from behind, a little bit high that time to White. All right, so you illustrated the strengths of it. What makes it so difficult?
Well, it's because, watch this, your feet come off the ground. You have to be so disciplined with your shoulders. Notice his shoulders there stay level and his hips come through. Obviously, that ball would have been right on the money, I think, if that stripes would have gotten out of the way. But your feet are off the ground while the ball's coming out of your hand, Tom. So you have to be extremely athletic, and your timing has to be perfect. But it's a great way to generate velocity without stepping into a throw. So when you got traffic around you in the pocket, it's one thing you're going to have to do at this level and the next level.
Jake Camarda missed from 42, and now he pushes it right from 44. And so that's what's kept the red team from getting on the board. Black team's got a 7-0 lead. They'll get the ball back inside 5 minutes to go before the half.
They're going to be better for week 1, regardless of how that game goes.
Brock Vandegrift takes over at quarterback for the black team. He'll roll out on the first possession, and he fires a strike. Comes out of the bullpen firing fastballs, and he's able to find Steven Peterson, the Kennesaw product.
Well, I mean, the first thing you notice here from Vandegrift is the hair flowing in the wind out here on the run. I mean, unbelievable, but also a great ball on the run. He's obviously a very talented quarterback. He's a 4-star out of high school, big-bodied guy with a strong arm.
On game day, and he made a really interesting comment as Vandegrift gets chased from behind on his 2nd and 5, and he'll scramble his way for a quarterback run and a first down. Tom Monken told us, he said, I really felt the ghost of Justin Fields around the program, that there was this fear that Dwan Mathis was going to turn into the great quarterback that got away if we didn't have an opportunity for him to play. And it turned out that consistency wasn't there. But I thought that was a really telling comment, that maybe as a staff, they felt the fear that they're going to let a great guy walk out the door.
Yeah, and you think about it, that when Justin Fields was with Georgia, he'd come in the game and he'd make mistakes. Yes, he was super talented, but he didn't have enough reps. He had certain packages, and so Dwan Mathis would come in the game. He'd show flashes of the physical ability and the talent, and then you'd see somebody, you go, wait a minute, does he just need more time? And so you're in a very weird situation as a coach of trying to get a guy ready to play, having just had that experience of Justin Fields looking the same way in practice, then turned out to be something much better at his next stop.
Vandegrift's got some reps at the number 2 quarterback throughout the course of spring ball, and that one was on time, able to thread it through to find Ladd McConkey. Monken also told us, we're talking to him about the Kentucky game, where they really leaned on the running game, and they knew that if they didn't turn the ball over, that Kentucky wasn't going to be able to score enough points to win the game. And it was a game plan that Georgia needed to come out and find a victory. And he said, listen, I'd be lying if I'd said I didn't look at stats. We all look at stats. He said, I don't want to be the 80th ranked offense out there. I want us to score points. I want to stretch defense and get the ball in the end zone, and now they'll have the opportunity to do that. That one popped up loose, and Vandegrift sandwiched as that one is recovered by the red team.
Ball gets loose, recovered by the red team.
Now what a quarterback wants to do, turns it over.
Load with recovery.
You start thinking too much as a young kid, right? I mean, this is part of what Kirby Smart wants to see. We saw Carson Beck handle the early pressure really well. A couple great throws out the gate from Brock Vandegrift, and then your eyes, right? The most that happens for a quarterback is that millisecond right before the ball is snapped. So you're trying to take in information while that ball is coming at you. If you lose your concentration, even just for a split second, that can happen.
Well, offensive coordinator Todd Monken brought in to be able to stretch the offense. That vertical passing game. Another fine play, by the way, by Zion Logue. Sophomore at 11 on Tennessee. Had a tip pass earlier in the game, and now the fumble recovery. And now Stetson Bennett. First snap, first attempt, and he finds James Cook. Bennett gives Georgia a very comfortable security blanket at the quarterback position.
Yeah, and that's what Monken and Kirby talked to us about yesterday is, look, he's not getting a lot of reps. Beck's getting a lot of the twos. Vandegrift is getting some twos, most of the threes. Stetson needs to be a guy that if something crazy happens, he can step in without a lot of reps and provide a lot of value. Something that guys have to do at the next level in the NFL. Backups don't get a lot of reps, but you are counted on to come in and run the offense whether you got reps or not. Something they're going to need out of Stetson. He won't be the backup, but he will be a guy that they need from a value standpoint to step in and help him out if they're in a pinch.
I mean, a few years ago behind Jake Fromm, he got all the number 2 reps. Now,
yeah,
there probably weren't a whole lot of reps to go around at that time.
And then last year, the starter for most of the season, a lot of the season. So he's got plenty of reps. You know what he can do. But there's some other guys with a higher ceiling on the roster ahead of him. Oh, my.
Whoa, what a grab with the flag, and Kearis Jackson showing out. Stetson Bennett with a perfect start to his afternoon, and this sets him up at 1st and goal.
I mean, vertical passing game, right? That's why they went to JT. Not much of that today, and all of a sudden Stetson goes, hey, did you forget about me? I can push the ball downfield. And Kearis Jackson with a highlight catch there. That's a veteran. It's a veteran play. We've seen a few drops on the outside by A.D. Mitchell, the young kid. That will come. Kearis Jackson has had a lot of reps in this offense and showed it there.
Zamir White in the backfield with Stetson Bennett. White dives for the goal line, and he is in.
Zamir White, touchdown for the Reds.
That's his great push on the left side of this offensive line. Jordan Davis in there. There's some big bodies up front for the black squad down there, but great push. And Zamir White's going to get that one in from 2 yards out.
Stetson Bennett looking pretty good. Jordan, walk us through this.
Oh, it's a great job of fighting. Tight coverage on the outside. Jackson only gets one hand up for this, but that's all he needed. And the Red tie it up with steak dinner on the line.
We've seen 4 different quarterbacks in this game, and Bennett walking through that fantastic one-handed grab by Kearis Jackson. Black team with an opportunity now, and a deep ball from Carson Beck, wide open, and just a little wide for Arian Smith.
Make no mistake, this is going to be a deep, talented receiver group when everyone's healthy this fall and led by Jermaine Burton, who I think is an absolute star.
Complete over the middle, and the ball may have came loose on the back end after the catch by Brock Bowers. It'll be a first down for the black team.
So we mentioned Brock earlier in the game. 4-star, tight end, 6'4", 230. He's a guy that stretches the field. Darnell Washington, the big body tight end, is more of a blocker. He can stretch the field, but Brock Bowers, number 19, is a guy to keep your eye on if you're a Georgia fan because, like I said, I think there will be more 12 personnel utilized next year because the strength of this offense right now is running backs and tight ends, and Bowers is a guy that he will be really good. And Todd Monken said he's going to be a player. I don't know when, but he is going to be a player. He's raw right now, extremely talented, can stretch the field. If he can put it all together, he's going to be a guy that's going to make some waves next year as a young kid.
Cole, you had a chance to visit with Todd Monken, and not just yesterday with the rest of us on the Zoom, but also pregame today. Anything new about what this offense may look like?
Well, he talked a lot about the tight end position, like you guys just mentioned. Bowers could be more of a flex guy, line up, and I think that makes it difficult there is the defense doesn't really know how to identify him. So you line him up in so many different places. But he mentioned the youth again. He said, listen, we got a lot of leadership at quarterback, running back, but there's a lot of youngsters that are going to get a lot of playing time early. We've got to get them on the same page. He mentioned the offensive line. He said, I'm not worried about the talent. I'm worried about that group gelling, worried about them coming together, the chemistry. Same thing with some of these receivers, some of the younger tight ends that are actually going to have roles for this offense. He said, I don't know when it's going to happen. Going back to what Jordan just said, he said, we're going to be really good. We just got to make sure everybody's getting on the same page.
Finds a soft spot again. This is Bowers one more time.
I mean, in high school, Bowers obviously played tight end, also played wide receiver, running back, kick returner, and had 25 tackles as a linebacker. Talk about an athlete. The kid was playing everywhere.
Yeah, and that was all his junior season.
Yeah.
They didn't play this past fall. His high school was getting ready to play 5 games in the spring, and he said, I'd be better off to go ahead and get into Athens as an early enrollee. A good chunk of the recruiting class has done just that, and another successful recruiting period for Georgia. And you look over the last 4 years, and that cycle, they've been as good as anybody in the country. Here's Podlesny from 35. And he punches it through. 1:25 to go in the half. This is how the last game of the season ended for Georgia, with Jack Podlesny doing the damage.
Dagger.
53-yarder with 3 seconds left on the clock. Cole, does it feel like a game day to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Stands are pretty much full as they can be. Pretty good crowd atmosphere. The energy's pretty good. We got guys that are actually in pads, snapping and throwing a football around, making tackles. So it feels like an actual football game.
Handoff to James Cook. JT Daniels had some really interesting comments when he talked about coming from the Pac-12 to the SEC. He said, I played in front of COVID crowds last year, and those were the loudest crowds I'd ever played in. He said, you got to remember, I came out to USC for my spring game. There were 500 people there. He said, the importance of football in this area was not lost on me, but it was part of a culture shock. He said, of course, in L.A., you've got the Lakers, you've got the Dodgers, you've got the film industry, the music industry. There's a lot of things to distract you. He goes, it was amazing my first time in Athens as I went through downtown and saw every restaurant, every bar, every shop with a Georgia flag in it in red and black. He said that's common throughout the entire SEC. He said saw the same thing at Missouri. He said, but that's not common where I come from.
Welcome to the SEC. Just means more around here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's true, though. You talk about the culture. I thought it was interesting. He also mentioned the defense, right? He's like, look, Pac-12, when we say this sometimes, and I think fans roll their eyes, but when you hear it from the quarterback's mouth, who has played in both leagues, he's like, look, Pac-12, mostly zone coverage. He said, you know what? I don't think I ever saw an outside linebacker that was 6'4", 230, 240, running a 4.4 on the West Coast. They don't have those guys. And they have them on every single roster here in the SEC. So there's a big difference that he was catching up on coming over from the Pac-12 to the SEC, not just in culture, but also schematically on what he sees when he walks to the line of scrimmage and how he diagnoses defenses.
he wasn't the only one that discussed this. Todd Monken did too. He said, listen, even in the NFL, you get either 1 or 2 looks. He said, but with Saban's coaching tree and the match zone that people run, as Daniels gets pressured there and is able to get it off to Zamir White, it's a lot more complicated, it seems, when you try to dissect the defense.
Inside red territory.
That was telling.
The consistencies.
I thought it was telling of Monken to kind of say, look, we got to the middle of the season and we weren't even running 30-40% of what we had put in. I think he started to learn as the season went on, coming from the NFL to college, that defenses are a little different, and they're very nuanced here, especially as you mentioned in that Saban tree. So he was kind of retooling things as the season went on from an offensive scheme standpoint, not to mention that he had a couple different quarterbacks he was trying to do that for. So expected it's been a pleasant surprise this offseason, or not surprise, but pleasant experience to just design an offense for one quarterback for Todd Monken.
Yeah, finally get the opportunity to have a spring. And you got a guy like Zamir White. He's able to rip off another big one. Great visit with Dan Lanning yesterday. Well, he was excited to get a spring under his unit's belt. Falling catch made, 23 seconds left on the clock. That's to Donnie Mitchell. 22 seconds left in the half. JT Daniels trying to punch one in. Going for it all. Back corner and into the hedges. The pride of Savannah Christian High School. 10 seconds left in the half. 3rd and 10. Daniels fires. Caught! Great hands by A.D. Mitchell. That was a stinger out of the hand of JT Daniels.
Arm talent, Tom. This ball
against the
had to
defense.
be thrown
That penalty is
with
behind.
a lot of
Result of the
velocity,
play
with the
is a
safety
touchdown.
coming over the top. And JT put it right on the money to A.D. Mitchell, who they've been off page a little bit today, but that one was right on the money. You see the safety closing in. That is a heck of a ball from JT.
Point after is good. JT Daniels had some inconsistency
That is
in
the
his
end of
second
the first
series.
half.
Comes back out in the 2-minute drill and leads the red team to a touchdown. He is 13 of 21 for 99 yards in the half. Stetson Bennett, a perfect 3 for 3, backing him up. Beck, 7 of 13, and Vandegrift, 4 of 4. I thought that was such a mature answer and a different perspective from JT Daniels. He said, listen, I'm not saying that it's not fun, and if you get the adulation, sure, that's great, but that's not my motivation here to play this position.
That was a little bit of a shocking answer. Not in a bad way, but in a really good way. Because a lot of times when we sit down with these kids, I feel like sometimes we get the answer that they want us to hear, and I felt nothing but 100% genuine response from JT, and he's like, I don't do it to be a superstar. I do it because I want to be really good. I do it because I love this. So it doesn't matter if it's Georgia or USC or Vanderbilt for that matter. He just loves football.
Whoa! That one overthrown and intercepted by Dan Jackson. And Jackson able to bring it back upfield. He has gotten rave reviews throughout spring ball, and the sophomore from Gainesville, Georgia, able to take one away.
Looked like Beck was trying to hit Arian Smith down the field, the track speedster. See what happens here. It's a post route. Yeah, it's what you got to do as a young quarterback. You got to realize that safeties can recover in this league. And so that ball has to be thrown much more on a line. When you throw the ball down the middle of the field, if you have a 2-safety look, or even if you move the single high safety, you don't have a ton of time to put that ball with a lot of air. And that's something that Carson Beck will start to learn more and more, and will become second nature the more reps he gets. Completely, right? Kirby alluded to it. Look, we got a couple pressures. We're showing the ones that people know we do. We're not showing anything else. So this offense is going to look much different when the fall comes around. Todd Monken is keeping it very vanilla. Day 1, day 2, day 3 install stuff that his guys know really well, and that doesn't tip their hand too much of who they're going to be next year. Because I know there will be some big adjustments.
How about Devontae White here, Cole?
Well, it doesn't have to be a pressure. It can be a stunt. We've seen a lot of games up front, a lot of twists and slants, maybe some zone fires as well. So I think Matt Luke's going to be a little disappointed at the way that offensive line has handled the pressures and stunts today. Regardless if it's 2 or if it's 22, you still have to have that communication in that field to be able to exchange some of those games we've seen up front. But this is going to be one of the better defensive lines in all of college football, so you expect some of those individuals to make plays.
Matt Luke, former head coach at Ole Miss, in charge of the O-line. There's a lot of head coach experience on this Kirby Smart staff. Redshirt freshman Jackson Muschamp going to get an opportunity here. Out of Hammond School in Columbia, where his dad obviously was a head coach at South Carolina. And we're getting a few more reserves in now about midway through the third quarter.
I feel like Jackson Muschamp's got to know some defensive football pretty well. You grow up with your dad, a defensive coach in the household. I feel like he's seen a thing or two.
Yeah, but it's probably a pretty good chance.
Yeah, just, I bet they got on the whiteboard a few times.
That one got tipped, a little wobbler coming out, and it was still caught by Peterson, I believe. And indeed, good hands by Steven Peterson. You think that guy has a vested interest in what number 14's doing here on this drive?
Yeah, or maybe he's dialing up some extra pressures. You never know. No, I'm sure he absolutely.
Double eagle blitz.
Yeah, I'm sure he wants to see Jackson do well. But I mean, what a great ad for this Georgia staff. I mean, we all have been around Will so much over the last couple of years. Nothing but the highest respect for him as a coach, as a person. So just a great ad by Kirby Smart to have him on this staff.
Extra set of eyes and ears and all the. I think. The way I view it is when you get a staff that you can really trust and has great experience, it's one thing in the day-to-day, but it's other thing when you get something out of left field that you are not 100% prepared for, that reaction like, hey, I've been through this before. We had to deal with this in South Carolina or Texas or Auburn or whatever my previous stop was. And we can make an adjustment here as Muschamp. Well, they flipped it up now, put Vandergrift back in. Cole, what do you got? Here comes pressure. And they got hands on him. And credit the red team with a sack. If you're Kirby Smart and you get a chance to make a trade deadline deal after the spring ends and you get into the offseason, is it realistic that they could bolster their roster by looking to the transfer market?
I think it's not only realistic, I think it's necessary. I mean, the West Virginia DB's coming over, but I think they absolutely need to get a corner. And this does kind of open up the market. It's not completely a wild west because the SEC still needs an in-conference waiver for guys that are transferring. But if you're at corner and you are a high recruit and you're sitting on another roster at 2 or 3 in line, and you're like, man, I heard Georgia needs some help. Would you not want to come here with an opportunity to step in and play right away? So I absolutely think that's something that Georgia has in mind. And I think some guys across the country may be looking at it now with that new rule and going, I can transfer and play right away. I'm going to do it.
Let me counter that, though. If you're number 2 or 3 in line somewhere else,
number 5. 5-yard
are they
penalty.
in such a dire position that you would
down.
step in and be helpful to a team that's aiming for a national championship? Or are we talking more along the lines of you're a frontline guy at a team that's not necessarily a college football playoff team, not a team that's competing for national championships, where you could say, hey, I have a chance to achieve a team goal over there with that squad?
Yeah, I think it's both, right? Yeah, so you make a good point. I think there are veterans across the country that could go, we're not going to compete next year. I have some draft stock, but maybe I'd like to get more exposure. And so you got a guy that's maybe got 1 year left that could say, hey, I've accomplished a lot. I know I can step in and get on the field right away. Or I was kind of mentioning you have a 4 or 5-star recruit that's on a roster sitting somewhere that's going, I thought I was going to play right away. Let me go over here and get a fresh start, right? So I think you might see a little bit of both across the board and maybe even at Georgia as well.
Could Georgia add a couple of guys? I think experience is what you guys mentioned that would be most valuable to this football team. Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I think they can go get an offensive lineman that's more talented than what they have right now.
Fantastic touch on that pass down the sideline. And that's James Cook for a Georgia first down for the red team.
And this is great to see from JT Daniels. You've seen him attempt quite a few back shoulder throws. Not much has been open downfield, but you see James Cook on a wheel route out of the backfield working on a linebacker. It's great identification by JT to see the one-on-one matchup. It's a great ball placement and a great play design by Todd Monken. And James Cook's a guy to watch, right? This running back group is loaded, but Cook, 225 yards last year receiving. He's a guy that can catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. They might move him around quite a bit next year.
I love that versatility out of the backfield. Under a minute to go in the quarter. This is a 2nd and 2. On the run. Beautiful play, and it turns into a touchdown. JT Daniels went on the move and able to find Kearis Jackson.
You were talking about it, Tom, right?
Up on Black.
Watching guys in the NFL that do it well outside the pocket, how do they do it well? Watch JT Daniels' hips. His body is going to the left. Watch his hips snap right there. He gets his shoulders around his lower body. He's able to get through the throw so he can throw an accurate throw with velocity right on target. That's a great job by JT. You don't have to run a 4-4 to be a guy that can make plays outside the pocket.
When you watch JT Daniels today, do you see or even get the feel for any lingering effects from his knee injury? I know it was a long time ago.
No, I don't think so. I think I've seen good mobility. I think I've seen good pocket presence in how he's moved within the pocket. Again, he's not going to be a guy that's going to hurt you with his legs way outside the pocket. That's not who he needs to be. He needs to be like Mac Jones was last year. Mac moved great in the pocket. He was explosive within the pocket to get himself back on platform, avoid rush, and make a few throws like that outside the pocket. That's who JT Daniels is and who he can be. And I don't see that knee having any lingering effects right now. It's got to get out of the way if there's an interception going the other way, though. That could be.
It depends on who you are.
Yeah. If you're Coach O, you might just body up.
JT Daniels has thrown a couple of touchdowns in this one. He looks comfortable and ready for the season. It's a 21-10 lead for the first team offense. Brock Vandegrift, freshman 5-star recruit at quarterback now. And here's Kendall Milton. I was talking about how Georgia has utilized its third running back over the years. Seth Emerson from The Athletic had a great article about it a couple of weeks ago. Last 4 years, the third man in Georgia's backfield has accounted for 14% of their rushing yards. Only Alabama and Kentucky has used that third man more. And in addition to that, it's easy to see how that player almost served an apprenticeship as a third man before moving into a more featured role. In 2017, it was Swift, Brian Harrion in 18, it was White in 20, White in 19, and then McIntosh. And it's an opportunity the way that obviously you need depth at that position in the SEC, but also it's not like they use historically that third running back in simply a running back role. They appreciate the versatility of those guys.
Yeah, and it's a great way for that third running back to develop because you're allowed to play fast. Your package of plays is a little bit smaller. You're not asked to do everything the first or second guy will do. So when you're in, you're not thinking. You're reacting. You're playing fast. I think we saw a lot of that from Kendall Milton last year, and he's going to take a huge step this next year.
Vandegrift over the middle, incomplete. Hey, Cole standing by with Monty Rice.
Man, you got to be fearless, relentless, run to the ball every play, because if not, you ain't going to be able to fit in. Set.
All right, Monty, so a lot of experience gone off this defense. You've been around these guys, though. Who do you kind of have your eye on to potentially make an impact for this Georgia defense in 2021?
The whole defense, because I know how hard those guys work. And, you got veteran linebackers in Channing, Nakobe, Quay. You got a lot of good players, even Ryan Davis, Tresman. We got a lot of good guys in there that can, at linebacker, you want to have somebody that can, take control. And I think all of those guys had the ability to do that.
What's it like playing behind a guy like Jordan Davis?
Man, people scared of him. Like, you know, he messing up the center snap count just because they so worried about moving him. Like, you can't move him. So it was honestly a blessing to be able to play with somebody like that.
So Kirby told us right before halftime that they've run 2 pressures today. I know you've been watching that group, but, I mean, come on, it's been more than 2 different pressures.
I'm not allowed to spill any secrets.
But you kind of like that as a defensive guy, that he's kind of turning it loose. Like, he's letting everybody run, right?
Yeah, but you want to just let them play because you still got a lot of new guys here that need to learn the playbook. So if you, like, make it too complicated, they won't be able to play. You know, when you get to the field, it's about, you know, turning it on and just flying around. It ain't about thinking. Just getting ready for that. It's kind of nerve-wracking a little bit, but, you know, that's just part of it, I guess. Oh, come on, Lewis! Oh, yeah, come on, Lewis!
Call it, Mommy, call it.
Come on! Get him the pass!
Defensive pass is intercepted by Lewis C.
You love the turnover pass, right?
You said what?
You love the turnover pass.
Oh, yeah, you got to love the turnover pass. It's one of the best traditions in college football.
Well, Monty, thanks for taking some time with us today, man. It's good
problem.
visiting
Thank
with
you
you.
for having me.
Congrats on a great career and good luck in the draft.
Thank you, for sure.
Former Georgia
Rice's
great, Tom.
reaction,
Monty Rice.
Yeah, to Lewis Cines' interception. Get him the Savage pads. Let's go. We'll reward him. Jordan, it was interesting hearing Monty talk about, and I think the average fan would love to hear more about this, as they get pressure on Carson Beck, the preparation the guys go through to get ready for the draft, when he talks about training with certain entities and certain coaches and the specificity of draft training. What is that process like for guys who have been on a college campus and now are preparing just for the workouts in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, it's twofold. It's a grind and it's a whole lot of fun. He mentioned he's out in Hollywood at Exos. I mean, so it's a new experience, right? You're not in college anymore. You're getting some love from people. Some money's flowing your way for the first time in a while, probably. But from a football standpoint, it's all about those technical skills. The 5-10-5, the 40, the vert. A guy like Monty wants to show that he's explosive and he's quick. So especially the 5-10-5, especially the vertical for a guy like Monty who's got a ton of good tape. So you start to get granular. It's not about the tape anymore. It's about looking good, being fast, being in shape, and getting ready for OTAs and off-season training with wherever you end up.
Administration perspective, you absolutely look at players from programs like Georgia a little bit differently. They come with a little bit more stock. If you're coming out of Georgia, Notre Dame, Alabama, the ones he mentioned specifically, because you know the accountability that they've had within those programs over the years.
COVID, where we didn't get to be at practice and be in meeting rooms as much as we're used to. Great bullet throw there by Carson Beck to Darnell Washington. What a throw. But with JT, it wasn't the mental aspect that was slowing him down. He was ready. I truly believe it was the physical. So it'd be great to see him with a full offseason. Went through a handful of quarterbacks or coordinators at USC. Went through a handful of offenses last year as Monken was trying to adapt it to multiple people. And I think it's going to be special this year when it all comes together. And I tell you what, Georgia has found their number 2 quarterback. I've been impressed with Carson Beck today. He's made some big-time throws.
Well, they'll go for 2 here after the catch by Big O. Darnell Washington might be the biggest zero I've ever seen in my life.
I tell you what, Tom, you mentioned some of the players don't care about steak or beanie weenies. These coaches eat whatever dinner as well, so you better believe they all want the steak. So we're going for 2.
We got a throwback to a big fella.
Oh!
And he stopped short of Marius Mims. Top recruit on the offensive line. Just
Number 65.
he has earned the honor of continuing to block after that play. He said he's gained a lot of confidence since he moved in the starting role after Richard LeCounte's motorcycle accident last Halloween. And you can see guys that play with more confidence. Here's Demetrius Robertson, the veteran, on the outside.
And a great ball here again by JT to get that up and down. Again, not easy to do. You got to throw it with velocity. You got to get it up over an underneath defender in zone coverage and back down. Demetrius Robinson's a guy he's a vet. We mentioned it. Because of COVID, you get the extra year. This is going to be his 6th year playing college football. So he knows where he's supposed to be, when he's supposed to be there. He's going to be an important role player next year. He's going to play in a lot of games, man.
Broke Deshaun Jackson's freshman receiving records at Cal. Daniels going deep again. And all along, Demetrius Robertson maybe created some space. We'll take another look, but he'll take it into the end zone. The 6th spring game is the charm.
Had a great job by D-Rob there, shredding the defender, getting off the contact, but even a better job by JT. And this is one of the things that I love about his deep ball. Watch how much air he throws this with. That is a rainbow. And why is that important? Because he had to let that ball go early. If he throws that with less air, he's throwing it to a spot. Robinson maybe doesn't have time to shed the defender, adjust to the football. As you see, he comes back in for the football. But when you throw a deep ball with air, it allows your receiver to make a play, to adjust to it in the air. Watch Robinson adjust back into this football. He's only able to do that because so much air was put on it. One of the reasons why immediately they were able to hit more shots downfield last year with JT in, because the air and how he threw those deep balls.
59-yard hookup. Updated numbers on JT Daniels, 28 of 41 for 324.
Start figuring out, boys. You want it medium, medium well, medium rare, or you want it like Tom, just rare, still bleeding on the plate.
Maybe some Brussels on the side. Who knows?
Oh.
Yes.
Carson Beck trying to avoid the Ryan Davis rush.
I have personally been at dinner, and so have you, Tom, where we have ordered no less than 6 Brussels. Bowls of
orders
Brussels.
Yes.
6 orders of Brussels. Yes, excuse me. Not just 6 little guys. 6 orders of Brussels. And Cole ate the lion's share of all of it.
Let's not act like this was like some, dog food bowl. I mean, they're bringing the little appetizer bowl. It's not like it was a lot of them.
The only thing more entertaining is going to a tapas bar with Cole and hearing him complain that there's not enough protein. Just keep, sir, I understand these are small plates. Just keep bringing the protein. Thank you. On 2nd and 3, Carson Beck will scramble. Maybe we'll get a chance to join you on the road this year, Cole. We can take it a 5-bar, get you the shrimp app, and you'll be happy.
Can't wait.
Get 3 of them and get that avocado thing too.
That avocado thing. Whatever it is, get it. It was delicious.
Here's Edwards. He hadn't gotten a whole lot of touches in this game. 3 carries.
First charge time out of the half.
Now picks up his 3rd reception of the game.
President Marshall with the stop.
I'm going to say it again. I think Carson Beck has had a really good day. He's done a couple of things very special. He's identified the defense. There's been some blitzes that have been dialed up. He hasn't panicked under pressure, kept his eyes downfield. He's done a good job of moving on through his progressions and also making plays with his feet outside the pocket. This was one of the main goals for Kirby coming into this game, was figure out who number 2 is. Let's find some consistency there. Let's figure that out going into season, because it's going to be JT's show, but who's going to be behind him? And I think that's Carson Beck.
He's going to unload on this one. Too strong. Trying to find Arian Smith. I know how much you like 2 sport guys. Carson Beck was a perfect game. Preseason underclass All-American, high school as a right-handed pitcher and a first baseman.
Arian Smith.
And baseball guy. That's why he changes the arm angle so naturally, right? Baseball guys have fluid throwing motions. He's a natural thrower. He's able to change arm angles, which when you got a big, tall, 6'4" quarterback, sometimes that's not the case. But when they have that baseball background, you see that come very easily.
3rd down 5. To the slant. And that's good for a black team first down, and they're letting him play on. Braxton Hicks with the catch. Everybody in a 2-point. Here's a 3rd and 3. And Milton. Oh, somebody saved the speakers and security. Almost knocked his beard off.
Maybe this year, maybe in a couple years, but he's taken the most first-team snaps out of anybody, and there it is. It's a great drive. Great drive by Carson Beck. Took what he could, Defense was playing over the top a bunch. So we took the check down. Then it started to open up 2 great throws in a row. This one's not over, Tom. Steak or beanie weenies?
You said it so accusatorily. Jalen Johnson with a touchdown catch. You've got golf and other things to keep you busy over the next 20 Saturdays. Cole's got an FCS game next week, but after that, I'm a little bit worried. Cole, how are you going to pass the time until college football starts back up?
We got a couple birthdays coming up. We'll get some film in. Start getting the extra film study a little bit early. We got to dive into these O-lines here in the SEC.
How much film did you watch on Georgia to prep for this spring game?
A little bit too much, to be perfectly honest with you.
Walk us through your film watching schedule. We got JT Daniels. How about you?
All right, here's the difference between JT and myself. I have no schedule. Mine is get it in where you can fit it in. I did go back to every game from last year, and the last 4 games, I may have watched those a few times before this game and realized pretty quickly today that it was completely unnecessary, to be honest.
Cole, are you watching film on the Peloton?
If I could get that thing hooked up, if you could help me get Exos onto my Peloton screen, that would be fantastic. But
Throw the iPad over the top.
I'm not technologically advanced enough to figure that out.
Red team will get the steaks. The black squad suffer through the beanie weenies. JT Daniels, I guess we can count this as 5-0 as Georgia's starting quarterback now. So we'll talk with Devontae White, had a sack in this one. Saturday. Daniels with a solid performance, what you would expect from the leading man, 28 of 41, 324 for 3 touchdowns, including 1 late. And the red team coming out on top of the black, 28-23.